Someone did this to you. Say it. Feel how good it feels. The boss who buried your promotion. The parent who never once said it. I'm proud of you. The partner who left with your best years zipped into a suitcase. The economy, the algorithm, the generation before yours that burned the house down and handed you the ashes. Somewhere right now, there is a name in your mouth, and it tastes like relief every time you say it. That relief is the wound talking, not healing it, feeding it. Because here is what nobody tells you about blame. It is the only addiction that disguises itself as clarity. You point the finger, and the whole world snaps into focus. There's the villain, there's the injury, there's you, innocent, waiting for the apology that isn't coming. Waiting for the world to notice the unfairness and correct itself. Waiting for a verdict that will never be handed down from a court that was never in session. You have been in that courtroom for years. Some of you have been in it since childhood, presenting the same evidence to an empty bench and calling the silence unfair. Picture a man standing at a forge, not working it, standing in front of it, arms crossed, staring at the fire like it insulted him personally. The heat comes off it in waves. It stings his face. And instead of picking up the hammer, instead of thrusting the raw iron of his life into that fire and making something of it, he turns to the man next to him and says, "Look how hot this is. Look what it's doing to me. Someone should put this fire out. Nobody is going to put it out. The fire was never optional. Heat is the condition of the forge, not an insult from it." And yet most of a human life gets spent exactly there, arms crossed, cataloging every degree of heat, narrating every spark that landed wrong, waiting for someone to arrive and apologize for the temperature of existence itself. You know this man. You have been this man. Maybe you are him right now mid-video, already composing the rebuttal. But what happened to me was different. What happened to me was actually unjust. And maybe it was. Maybe the fire really did burn you when it shouldn't have. Think of the last time you told the story of what happened to you. Really think about it. The version you tell at dinner. The version that gets a little sharper each time. The villain a little more villainous. You a little more blameless. Notice how good it feels in your mouth. Notice how it never once made the wound smaller. You've told that story 50 times, and it still stings exactly as much as the first telling. That's not a story healing you. That's a scar you keep reopening so you have something to show people. It doesn't matter. The forge doesn't apologize. It never has. Not once in the entire history of anyone who ever stood in front of one demanding it should. There was a man who ruled the most powerful empire on earth, buried his own children, watched plague empty out his cities, fought wars he never wanted, on borders he never chose to defend. And every night, by candlelight, in a tent on a battlefield, he wrote himself a single instruction, over and over, in a language only he would ever read. Stop waiting for the fire to be fair. Pick up the hammer. His name was Marcus Aurelius. He never meant for anyone to read those words. They weren't a philosophy book. They were a man talking himself down from the exact ledge you're standing on right now. The ledge where blame feels like justice and self-pity feels like self-respect. He knew something about that forge that you don't yet. Something that will feel at first like the ground going out from under you. If these words carved an echo within your void, do not turn back. The descent has just begun. Click below, subscribe, and claim your reality. Marcus Aurelius did not believe you were wronged. Sit with how much that costs you to hear. He wasn't naive. Men tried to kill him. Betrayal reached him through his own generals, his own blood. He knew cruelty at a scale most of us will never touch. And still, in the meditations, that private notebook never meant for an audience. He keeps returning to one brutal division, the load-bearing wall of his entire philosophy. There is what happens to you, and there is your judgment about what happens to you. Those are two different things. You have never once controlled the first. You have never once not controlled the second. This is the dichotomy of control, and it is not a comforting idea. It is a demotion. It tells you that the promotion you lost, the parent who withheld love, the partner who left, none of that was ever inside your power to begin with. It was weather. You do not get to blame weather. You can only blame what you did in it. Here's how it lands on an ordinary Tuesday. A man gets a text. We're going a different direction. 6 words. A relationship. Gone. His hands are already shaking before he's finished reading it. That shaking, that's not the text. The text is 4 inches of glowing glass. The shaking is his verdict on the text, delivered in under a second, faster than thought, and he will spend the next 3 months treating that verdict as if it were the event itself. Marcus calls this the ruling faculty, the part of you that judges, not the part that feels. The part that decides what the feeling means. And he says, again and again, almost like a man gripping a rail in a storm, nothing has power over your ruling faculty except your ruling faculty. The text cannot hurt you. Only your judgment that being left is a catastrophe can hurt you. Change the verdict, and the same 6 words become something else entirely. Information, not injury. Now here is where it turns from diagnosis into demand. Because Marcus doesn't stop at don't blame the fire. He goes further. Into the line that built empires of self-command out of one Roman emperor's grief. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Read that twice. He is not saying obstacles don't hurt. He is saying the obstacle is not separate from your progress. It is the material of your progress. The fire is not interrupting the forge. The fire is the forge. There is no version of becoming strong that doesn't run directly through the thing trying to stop you. Think about what this actually demands of you when it's not a war or a plague, when it's just an ordinary Wednesday. Your flight gets cancelled. Your kid gets sick the morning of the interview. The weak read treats the interruption as an insult, personal, deliberate, aimed at you specifically, as if the universe checked its calendar and decided today was the day to ruin you. The Stoic read treats the interruption as neutral material, indifferent to you, waiting only to find out what you'll do with it. Same cancelled flight. Same sick child. One version leaves you furious at a sky that owes you nothing. The other leaves you already solving the next problem. A woman gets passed over for a job she trained 6 years for. The weak read of that event, this proves the system is rigged. Nothing I do matters. The Stoic read, this is now raw material, not because the unfairness wasn't real. It may have been entirely real, but because her verdict on it is the only lever she was ever holding. She can use the rejection to sharpen her case, expand her range, outbuild the very people who dismissed her. Or she can stand in front of the forge with her arms crossed, cataloging the heat. Both women experienced the identical event. Only one of them picked up the hammer. This is not positive thinking. Positive thinking tells you the fire doesn't really burn. Marcus tells you it burns exactly as much as it burns, and hands you the hammer anyway, and tells you to use the burn. There's a second piece to this. One Marcus circles back to constantly, almost obsessively, like a man checking a wound, memory of death, not as morbidity, as leverage. He reminds himself, page after page, that he could leave this life right now, mid-sentence, mid-anger, mid-grudge, and the grudge would simply die with him, unfinished. Having cost him hours, he'll never get refunded. A man spends a decade not speaking to his brother over an inheritance dispute. Ask him honestly if he'll still care about that inheritance on the day he dies. He knows the answer already. Everyone does. That's exactly why Marcus wrote it down every morning, not because the answer was a mystery, but because knowing it and living like you know it are two completely different disciplines, and only one of them changes anything. Because underneath all of it is the coldest sentence he ever wrote to himself, the one that should be sitting in your chest right now like a stone. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength, not comfort. Strength. He never once promised you comfort. Here is the assumption you walked in with, and it has to die. You think blame is about the person who hurt you. It was never about them. It was always about the exit it gave you. Follow the logic all the way down, because Marcus does, without flinching. If blame were really about justice, you would feel better after delivering it. You don't. You've delivered it 1,000 times, in the shower, in the car, in the argument you replay at 2 a.m. with better lines than you actually said, and every single time, the wound is still there in the morning, exactly the same size, sometimes bigger. That's the tell. Justice, once served, closes a case. Blame never closes anything. Blame isn't a verdict. It's a mortgage you keep paying on a house you don't even live in anymore. What blame actually buys you is smaller and uglier than justice. It buys you the right to stay unfinished. As long as it was their fault, you never have to pick up the hammer. You never have to find out what you're actually made of, because you've already filed the paperwork explaining why you never got the chance. Blame is the most comfortable form of self-abandonment ever invented, because it wears the mask of righteous anger, while quietly doing the one thing anger should never do: nothing. Watch how it operates in a marriage that's dying slowly instead of all at once. One partner spends years cataloging the other's failures, the missed anniversaries, the wrong tone, the small daily withdrawals of warmth, and every entry in that ledger feels like evidence, feels like proof I was right to give up. But notice what the ledger never contains: a single line about what they built or failed to build themselves. The ledger only ever points outward. That's not an accident. A ledger that points outward never has to reckon with the one entry that would actually change anything. Now go back to the forge, because it just got a second, crueler wall. You thought the forge was something happening to you. The boss, the parent, the partner, standing outside you lighting fires you never asked for. That was already the softer version. The harder truth is that you are not standing in front of the forge. You are inside it. You always were. Every hour of your life is heat, whether you notice or not. This conversation, this discomfort, this very sentence landing somewhere it wasn't invited. There was never a version of existing where you got to step outside and watch the fire from a safe distance, arms crossed, filing complaints. That safe distance was always an illusion. The forge doesn't have an outside. And this is where it gets dark, so stay with it. If you are always inside the forge, then there is no one coming. Not a boss with a better mood. Not a parent with a deathbed apology. Not a partner who finally understands what they lost. Not a system that suddenly corrects itself out of guilt. Marcus buried a wife's worth of children and never once wrote a line asking the universe to explain itself to him, because he'd already accepted the thing you haven't. It isn't going to. Nobody is coming. There is no rescue scheduled. There never was. Feel that land. Really let it land, because most people spend their whole life flinching away from that exact sentence. Sit with what it costs the ones who never accept it. Somewhere there's a man in his 60s, still waiting for his father to say the thing his father was never going to say. still checking a door that closed decades ago, still rehearsing an apology he's writing on someone else's behalf, because they never bothered to write it themselves. That is not devotion. That is a life quietly handed over to a debt that was never going to be collected. Marcus watched men do this in his own court, waiting on the Senate, waiting on fortune, waiting on the gods to notice their patience and reward it. And he wrote, flatly without cruelty, that the waiting itself was the wound, dressed up as virtue. Now here's the release, and it isn't comfort, it's something better than comfort. It's weight coming off. If nobody is coming, you can stop waiting on the porch. You can stop checking the road. Every hour you spent expecting the apology, the correction, the rescue, that hour is yours again. The second you stop spending it on people who are never going to pay it back. The fire was never your enemy. Your waiting was the enemy. The moment you stop waiting for the heat to be fair, your hands are suddenly free, and there's a hammer sitting right there. That was sitting there the entire time that you were too busy waiting to pick up. That's not a metaphor for later. That's available to you right now, mid-sentence, before this video even ends. Weapon 1. The judge's chair. Somewhere in your chest there's a small wooden chair, and something's been sitting in it your whole life issuing verdicts. This is a disaster. This is unforgivable. This ruins everything. And you've been obeying those verdicts like they're facts instead of opinions from a chair. Marcus's discipline of assent is simple and brutal. Before you accept any judgment about an event, you drag it in front of that chair and ask it one question: is this the event, or is this my verdict on the event? The text that ended it. Event. My life is over. Verdict, and a cheap one. Practice this on something small tonight. A rude email, a dismissive comment. Catch the verdict before it sits down and rules. This is uncomfortable because it means you can no longer trust your first reaction, and you are trusting it completely. Most people go their whole lives never once meeting the judge in that chair. They just obey the ruling and call it feeling. Weapon 2. The view from the wall. Climb in your mind to the top of the wall Marcus climbed nightly in his own head. High enough to see your entire city at once, your entire century. The armies and the empires and the grief. All of it moving like weather across a landscape that has already buried 1,000 versions of your exact problem. From up there, your humiliation at work is a single grain of sand on a beach that stretches past the horizon in both directions. This isn't meant to make you feel small in a way that hurts. It's meant to make you feel small in a way that frees you, because most of what wrecks you at ground level cannot survive being seen from that height. Use it deliberately. Next time something ruins your morning, climb the wall first. Then decide if it still deserves your afternoon. Weapon 3. The rehearsal of ruin. Every morning, before anything has gone wrong, Marcus rehearsed the day going wrong. Today I will meet the ungrateful, the arrogant, the deceitful, the envious. He wrote it before breakfast, not to curse the day, but to disarm it. This is premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils, and it works like inoculation, a small deliberate dose of the wound, taken on your own terms so the real thing can't ambush you undefended. Most people run from this because it feels morbid. Sit for 3 minutes tonight and actually imagine losing the job, the person, the health you're afraid of losing. Not to spiral. To meet it once, calmly, before it meets you. The soldier who has rehearsed the battle does not break when the battle arrives. You have never rehearsed anything. That's why every setback still feels like an ambush. Do this enough mornings in a row, and something strange happens. The day itself gets harder to insult you. It already showed you its worst version in the quiet, on your terms, and paid its rent in advance. Weapon 4. the debt to the hive. Marcus kept coming back to bees. What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee. You were never building for yourself alone. And the sooner you stop pretending otherwise, the sooner your suffering starts producing something. Stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking the only question a builder ever asks. What does this make me capable of giving, now that I wasn't capable of giving before? The grief that gutted you becomes the thing that lets you sit with someone else's grief without flinching. The failure that humiliated you becomes the warning that saves someone younger from the same fall. Picture the version of you 5 years from now, sitting across from someone drowning in exactly the wound you're drowning in tonight. That version of you either has something real to offer them, earned in the fire, or has nothing but the same crossed arms and the same old story. Nobody else is going to decide which one you become. This is the heaviest weapon of the four, because it asks you to stop being the main character of your own wound and hand what you learnt in the fire to someone who's still standing outside it, arms crossed, waiting for an apology that isn't coming. Go back to the forge. Same man, same fire, same heat coming off it in waves that sting his face exactly as much as they did before. Nothing about the fire has changed, because the fire was never going to change. But watch his hands. They're not crossed anymore. There's iron in them, raw, ugly, still shapeless. And he's not asking the fire to be gentler, and he's not waiting for anyone to arrive and apologize for how hot it's always been. He drags the chair in his chest out from under the verdict, trying to sit in it. He climbs the wall for 1 second, sees how small this moment actually is against the whole burning sweep of a life, climbs back down lighter. He's already rehearsed this exact heat in the quiet of some earlier morning, so it doesn't own him now. And somewhere underneath all of it is the quiet, unglamorous knowledge that whatever he makes of this fire, he's not making it only for himself. He lifts the hammer, he brings it down. Sparks go everywhere, and not one of them asks his permission first. That's the whole verdict. Not that the pain stops. Not that the people who hurt you finally understand what they did. Not that the world becomes fair, because it was never going to become fair. And waiting for it was the real theft. Not what they took from you, but what you handed over every day you spent expecting them to give it back. The strong man was never the one who felt no heat. He's the one who stopped checking the door for someone else to walk through it and open it himself. Somewhere tonight there's a version of you still sitting at that table, still rehearsing the story with the villain, a little more villainous each time. You can keep telling it. Nobody will stop you. It will still sting exactly as much tomorrow as it does right now, and it will still have built you nothing, and one day, on your last day, it will still be unfinished. The one grudge you never got around to putting down because you were always waiting for someone else to lift it first. Marcus never finished the meditations. There is no triumphant last page, no victory lap, because that was never the point of the book. The point was the hammer picked up again every single morning for the rest of a life that never once became fair to him. Stop asking the fire for an apology. Pick up the hammer. What are you still waiting for someone else to fix? And what would you build tonight if you finally admitted no one's coming?